The life of Apostle Judas Iscariot, from discipleship to betrayal and death. Judas Iscariot remains one of the most controversial figures in biblical history. Known primarily as the apostle who betrayed Jesus Christ, his life, motivations, and tragic end have been debated for centuries. His story is one of mystery, ambition, disappointment, and ultimate despair. In this detailed exploration, we will examine the origins of Judas, his role as one of the 12 apostles, his infamous betrayal, and the circumstances leading to his death. Judas Iscariot was born in the region of Judea, possibly in the town of Kerioth, as suggested by his surname Iscariot, likely derived from Ishkarioth, meaning man of Kerioth. Unlike most of Jesus' other apostles who were from Galilee, Judas hailed from the southern part of Israel. Little is known about his early life, but scholars speculate that he may have been well educated and possibly involved in political or religious movements of the time. Given that Judea was under Roman rule, it is plausible that Judas, like many Jews of his time, had strong nationalist aspirations and desired the liberation of Israel from foreign oppressors. Judas was personally chosen by Jesus to be one of the 12 apostles. This was a position of great honor and responsibility, as the apostles were not only students of Jesus, but also his closest companions and future leaders of the faith. Judas was entrusted with managing the group's finances, serving as the treasurer. This suggests that he was considered competent and trustworthy in handling money. However, biblical accounts hint at his weakness for greed and dishonesty. Despite being in the presence of Jesus, witnessing miracles and hearing profound teachings, Judas appears to have struggled with disillusionment. Some scholars suggest that he may have initially followed Jesus, believing he would become a political Messiah who would overthrow Roman rule and establish an earthly kingdom. When it became clear that Jesus' mission was spiritual rather than political, Judas may have grown frustrated. One of the most defining moments of Judas's life was his decision to betray Jesus. The Gospels present varying details, but all agree that Judas went to the chief priests and agreed to hand Jesus over for 30 pieces of silver. His motivations for this betrayal have been widely debated. Some believe he was motivated purely by greed, while others argue that he may have hoped to force Jesus into revealing his power as the Messiah. There is also the possibility that Judas felt disappointed by Jesus' refusal to meet the nationalist expectations of a military leader. During the Last Supper, Jesus foretold his betrayal, stating that one of the 12 would turn against him. When Judas dipped his bread into the same dish as Jesus, it became clear that he was the one who would betray him. That same night, Judas led a group of soldiers and religious leaders to the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus was praying. He identified Jesus with a kiss, a gesture that has since become synonymous with betrayal. Jesus was then arrested, setting into motion the events leading to his crucifixion. Following the arrest and condemnation of Jesus, Judas experienced deep remorse. The Gospel of Matthew states that he returned the 30 pieces of silver to the temple authorities, declaring, "I have sinned by betraying innocent blood." However, the priest refused to take back the money, considering it blood money. Overcome with guilt, Judas threw the silver into the temple and left. The Gospel of Matthew records that he hanged himself out of despair. The Book of Acts offers a slightly different account, stating that Judas fell in a field he had purchased with the blood money, where his body burst open. This discrepancy has led to various interpretations regarding the exact nature of his death. The priests used the 30 pieces of silver to buy the field of blood, Akeldama, which became a burial place for foreigners. Judas Iscariot remains one of the most vilified figures in Christian history. However, some interpretations suggest that his actions were necessary for the fulfillment of prophecy. Without his betrayal, Jesus would not have been crucified, and thus Christian salvation through the cross would not have come to fruition. In some traditions, Judas is viewed with a degree of pity rather than condemnation. The Gospel of Judas, a non-canonical text, portrays him as acting under divine instruction rather than personal malice. This controversial interpretation challenges the traditional view of Judas as a traitor driven by greed. Despite the attempts to understand his motivations, Judas's name has become synonymous with treachery. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of greed, disappointment, and moral failure. The life of Judas Iscariot is a complex and tragic tale. From a chosen disciple of Jesus to the most infamous betrayer in history, his journey is filled with mystery and speculation. While his betrayal led to Jesus' crucifixion, it also paved the way for Christian redemption. Judas's story raises important questions about free will, predestination, and the nature of repentance. His end, marked by regret and despair, stands in contrast to the grace extended by Jesus even to those who failed him. Whether seen as a villain or a necessary instrument in the divine plan, Judas Iscariot's legacy endures as one of the most profound and unsettling narratives in biblical history.